Good morning and welcome back to Mold Stories. My name is Tammy Horner and I am a Colorado real estate agent, realtor, and conscious healthy home certified agent. I have a mold story and I'm a toxic mold survivor. I've been inspired to create a space where my community of fellow survivors and those who are currently navigating this journey can come share their stories without the story and lessons being tied to a product or service that you, the observer, need to invest in order to learn from or contribute to. I'm here to create a platform where people can be heard, where the stories that are often heartbreaking, overwhelming, and honestly often scary can be held, where you, the audience, can hear unedited, unfiltered, real stories of real people all over the nation who are combating toxins, natural and unnatural, that are in our environment. You'll hear about their journey and where they are today. So I thank you for joining us and I ask you to listen deeply with an open heart, understanding that this isn't meant to be prescriptive, not about right or wrong. Rather, it's an invitation to learn. And when we know better, we can choose to do better. Today, I have mold story number 6, but this isn't a mold story at all. I want to welcome Kathi McCarty. And Kathi is the founder of Meth Toxins Awareness Alliance and Home Zone magazine. And Kathi has a personal journey, but it's not with mold. And I can't wait to dig into this, but I don't want to give it away quite yet. When you're listening to this, what I'm hoping you can take away above everything else is that it's not always mold. And that if you don't find dangerous levels of mold, don't stop there. Ask more questions, dig deeper. Kathi, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's start by sharing with us a little bit about your background and who you are today before we dive into your story.
Sure, of course. And Tammy, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. It's just a pleasure and an honor. And I love how you preposition the fact that if people are having serious issues, mild to serious issues, that they just don't stop at mold. There are certainly a multitude of possible impacts that people are having within their home that are hidden. So thank you
Mhm.
for this platform and bringing
Oh.
this awareness to light.
So grateful for your time and for sharing this space with you. Thank you.
And I'm really excited to even share that your mold story is part of the next Home Zone magazine issue that's just launching later this week. And so living toxin free is about looking at all the opportunity, the contaminants that could possibly be out there and taking a preventative approach. So I love how you've positioned your space for all that. A little bit about my journey. Well, we're here on the Colorado Front Range. I've been a resident for over 30 years and I've raised a family here. I have three grown children, even 2 and 3/4 grandchildren
Oh.
currently, because one will be born next month, probably within about a month from now. And like many people, just clicking along, raising your family, working real hard, playing hopefully even harder. And then 10 years ago, this time, I have a 30 plus year career in lending and the banking industry, even in leadership levels. And I was clicking along 10 years ago, managing a large commercial bank in the Lakewood area along the Front Range here. And I found myself having a serious health event. And I'm here to say that I'm nothing but grateful. It did affect ultimately my sight, and I'm I'm so grateful that I can see you today because I was losing my sight during that process. So, with that, I had to step away from my career due to some residual issues. And ultimately, as I was working on my next chapter, which I was really excited about, as part of it, once my youngest went off to college in 2017, I made a conscious decision to rent out our home in the foothills of Denver in a little community called Evergreen, Colorado, where I raised all three of my now grown kids, and just to work on that next chapter. What seemed like a sensible solution to offset medical costs and other things to rent out this home, the mortgage and whatnot. It seemed really sensible. It did turn into a very complicated situation, what I refer to as like one of my worst nightmares in the sense that I put all the right provisions in place, hired a property manager, put the insurance protections, endorsements in place to have a tenant, and within 90 days of that tenant moving in uh, through a discovery, what I refer to as divine intervention, I had learned that the tenant had actually manufactured methamphetamine in the property. Uh, this is not a unique situation. I found myself especially climbing 100 huge hurdles in those first 100 days. What is meth? Why should I care? What were the impacts? And because my property was a 1956 restored cabin, meaning it was all logs, there was no drywall really. Inside the property, it had to take a different path to even consider how it could possibly even be remediated to our Colorado state standard. I also learned that only half our states in the nation even have any regulations and protocols around methamphetamine contamination. And so that took me on a big journey because after spending so much time in lending, which is a real estate related industry, how come I had never even heard about meth toxins? And so that's why we're here today.
It is why we're here today. Thank you for sharing that. I in part of it, there's this big personal journey you've taken to make that it's almost like this is a great opportunity to expand, to cover the extra bills, to make sure that the home is taken care of while we're
Hmm.
out of it. And it just turned into this big nightmare. Why should we care about meth being
Right.
in a home? You want to
Yeah,
more
there's
about
there
that?
are exactly. That's a great question. And that's what I had to learn is why should I care? We hear about the opioid addiction. There are a lot of drugs out there. Fentanyl is huge, making headlines because people are dying at just extraordinary levels because of what goes into some of these drugs, whether they're recreational or habitual at some level. But when you look at what methamphetamine is made of, the actual components, which includes stripping down lithium batteries to Drano to Sudafed to phosphorus and kitty litter and all sorts of things that go in there, you'll understand why this is so dangerous. And as bad as meth is for obviously the people who consume it, whether they snort it, they inject it, we're talking about how meth is consumed by smoking it, as well as the manufacturing. Hollywood does sensationalize the use and making of meth in movies and in the crime shows. I see it all the time. But those ingredients leave a residue when it's smoked or manufactured that adheres to every surface wherever air travels. Look at the room that you're in right now. People listening, look around the room that you're in. Most of them are drywall. And so drywall is a very absorbent, porous product, right? And so your ventilation system, your walls, your fabrics, hard surfaces could be washed, but soft surfaces, wood surfaces, those are very porous, and the residue that's left from smoking or manufacturing meth gets absorbed into these surfaces and crevices that are dangerous to all of us. Just by touching it, by breathing it, it'll settle in. Even our fur animals, who walk around the floors and rub against the walls and the furniture, and then they clean their fur, they lick it, they ingest it. We breathe it. Children touch it, and their body masses are a lot smaller, so it can have a much more significant impact. It's a very dangerous residue.
What type of symptoms are typical for people
Sure.
who have been exposed?
Yeah, another great question. And when you Google it, it's all over the internet, all these types of questions. So I invite people to do that. It could
Mhm.
seem as innocent as, having the sniffles, or for me, my eyes are a beacon of issues in an environment, and I have eye sensitivity, so it could be an irritation. It could mask similar symptoms like mold and other types of toxins or residue like nicotine, where you could have trouble breathing, you could feel very fatigued, you could have cognitive issues. Because it is a stimulant, when people have been in environments where there is meth, whether they're children or adults, you could have trouble sleeping. It's a stimulant and it could amplify your heartbeat. You could have trouble breathing when at higher levels, as well as people who have heart issues and even worse. People at risk, like the elderly and small children, and people like me that have immune compromised situations, are all to be found to be at risk. And even healthy people, unfortunately, uh, fall victim to the issues that can surround meth, all the way to significant kidney and liver toxicities where they have to seek significant medical treatment, have been uh, commonly documented.
Okay.
Mhm,
It's horrible. I think about the many different times, we move into a new place and people start experiencing symptoms after a while. And this is like another layer for us to dive into. And a lot of times,
mhm,
people who are starting with the mold journey, and mold may be a part of it, but then there's
mhm,
also other things that show up. We've got bacteria that we're looking at now, and pests. Different types of pests can cause environmental toxin issues.
mhm,
And now meth, which isn't a new problem, but it's one that we don't talk about a lot. Even in the real estate industry, we have classes
mhm.
can help us to learn, which you're teaching, which we'll talk more about later on. But I just feel like there's just not enough attention on how important knowing our environment is before we move into it. Now, so you had this home rented out to these people. What happened? How did you find
Sure.
out?
Well, and it turned out that they rented it to one individual. It was a modest cabin size. It was just a little over, just under 1,100 square feet, but it was rented out to an individual. Whether he had other people living there, I'm not too sure. But I found that my cabin was a little magical, a little woohoo, in the sense that I was contacted by the property manager by being told that there was a maintenance issue at the home that was water related, and it was supposed to be minor. And when I got a text one morning, and this is the end of September in 2018, to give you an idea of the timeline here, because now we're obviously in 2026. So we're looking at over 7.5 years ago now. I was told that there was a minor water maintenance issue. They had a plumber working on repairs, and then the next morning I received a text that they were digging. And based off the conversation I had the night before, I didn't know what digging meant, what kind of digging. If it was somebody with a shovel, I don't know why I would have been contacted. So when I couldn't get a hold of the property manager, I went up to the home. I was staying with family in Denver, and when I got there, I was just shocked at what I saw. I saw a huge piece of not electrical, excavation equipment, one of those big backhoes with the big shovel on the front of it. And I thought, and there was a huge hole. It was 10 foot long by several foot wide by several foot deep. This was anything but a minor maintenance issue. And there were so many red flags for me about our management agreements. It was pretty standard for Colorado. It stated if there was a repair over $300, they were supposed to contact me to approve it and things like that, unless there were two considerations. One, it was a safety issue, and the other, they couldn't get a hold of me. And I was local. I was easily available. They had a big meeting at the house that the day before, and I wasn't even invited to the party. So there were tons of red flags. And now I understand why, because the property manager may or may not have been involved in what was going on with the drug issues. But once I was there, I went behind the home with the excavator and saw equipment that I could not recognize. Now, this wasn't related to meth, but it was still very dangerous. And because we had just gotten out of a phase 2 fire ban, along the Front Range, and
Mm.
we have tinder dry conditions now. It's only gotten even worse in the last several years. But my own neighbors and my whole community was at risk based off of what he was doing behind the home, which was it turned out to be equipment to extract THC from cannabis and make high potency products that you can buy, at a dispensary. It's legal here in Colorado, but you can't make it in unsafe conditions. So we could have literally had a significant wildfire where people could have been hurt or worse. And so that's another piece of gratitude that I have here. But that led me to take photos that I had learned that the property manager took the day before, along with my own photos down to the sheriff's substation that was literally practically a stone's throw away from where I lived. You could see the sheriff cars from the substation via the trees where I lived, even just zooming in a little bit. So I was really close in. And with that, they got themselves a search warrant and served that within about 36 hours. And then that's where they found the components, the equipment, the hardware, the ingredients, and another amount of other drugs, as well as over 800 grams of meth and a small arsenal of guns. So it
Mm.
was a pretty, it was a pretty heavy situation that was going on in the home. And the tenant was had left the scene because he wasn't being held at that point. This was a search warrant, but
Mhm.
he was arrested on 12 felony counts and ultimately looking at 32 years for what he
Wow.
was originally charged for, what he was doing at the house. So it was quite an ordeal.
That's a really big deal.
Hmm.
And they got him. But then now what? So you have this house
Hmm.
that has this contamination. You can't just turn it and rent it out to someone else.
Didn't even know what that meant. So even though I had some pretty significant eye issues, I had to get on the World Wide Web and really learn what does that mean when your home has had meth manufactured in it. And the internet, literally, the Google blew up, right?
Yeah.
It was just jaw dropping as to what I was reading, and I knew I had to have it tested. So I had to learn what it meant here in the state of Colorado, which, as I mentioned earlier, only about half the states in the nation even have any protocols. So even if meth production and or consumption is going on, um, with no protocols in that state, it doesn't mean it's not dangerous, right? So
Right.
people really need to take notice. And people who own property then are not required to do certain things. But even though I went ahead and ordered some significant testing from a state-approved meth tester, I would have eventually been notified by our health department that I would have been required to do that before it could take on any additional occupants. So that was a good thing, and it tested hundreds of percent over our state protocol guidelines. And again, because of the uniqueness of a log home, it wasn't like it could be gutted to the studs and drywall rehung and the floors replaced and things like that. So it was a whole different Oprah, literally, on how to
Boy.
deal with it.
Yeah. And you have told me the story around what they had to do in there because there's no drywall.
Mhm.
Essentially, you have to somehow clean and seal the wood, right?
Well, that's the only option that was available. But I learned from the research that I had done, as much as that is an option, it wasn't an acceptable option to me because it's called encapsulation.
Yeah.
And even the product at that time that they were using for encapsulation, and now we're fast forwarding to about 2020, you couldn't even buy it here in Colorado. The VOCs, the off-gassing of the paint, the clear paint that this product was so dangerous. It wasn't even approved to sell in Colorado, but you could apply it in there. You could apply it, and then you could sell the property, either disclose it or not disclose it. It wasn't an acceptable option for me and for my family. So I did end up selling the property fully contaminated, fully disclosed, and taking a significant loss on it based off of that. And so it took its own journey and you know, uh, continues out there because the person that bought it did follow that encapsulation process. And 5.5 months after they bought it from me, they sold it. And they didn't have to disclose that it had meth contamination previously. And they literally sold it for more than double what they paid for it, almost $300,000 more than what they paid for it. I don't have the final number and how much it cost them, but it was, it's big business too. So it's buyer beware. So that's part of why I do what I do is we look to help regulate, help improve some of the regulations here in Colorado about transparency and things like that. So.
Are there states that it's different where you are required to disclose? How do you know?
Yeah, out of all the states in the nation, only half have regulations, and only 6 of those have a requirement currently to disclose previously contaminated meth. But even then, there's a lot of legal language in there where people could find cracks and crevices to say, well, I never lived there, or I inherited this from a family member, or whatever the reason may be. And may not really realize their level of responsibility to.
Mhm.
So there's a moral compass involved. So yes, only 6 states in the nation require the disclosure, but again, it doesn't mean that if it was there before, it was fully disclosed. That's why I'm a big proponent of test before you buy, no matter where it is, no matter what where the property itself is, whatever state it is, whether it's urban or rural, because you can't profile a home, a neighborhood, or a community anymore, or the occupants or the owners of who may have already been there. It's just like mold. It hides behind the walls and everything, and it can sneak up on you, and it's a the cost, in my opinion, the juice is worth the squeeze for the minimal amount of cost that you can have based off the final impact.
Yeah. And there are quite a few inspectors in the state of Colorado, I understand, right?
This our state health department has requirements where they have to get certified and go through their protocols, and then so they have a link on their website, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Its acronym is CDPHE. They have a list that they keep current because these people have to go through recertification every couple of years. So yes, it's really important to see what in your county, in your state has in that way of certification and requirements as well. So,
You're so knowledgeable. It's so great to talk to you about this. I am curious about the disclosure requirements.
mhm,
I'm hearing you say some places this is required to disclose, and of course there's loopholes or ways that people can go, I didn't know.
mhm.
And but in Colorado, this actually falls into a similar category like a murder or a suicide, right? And
Well, yes, we have some protocols around the state on whether you have to disclose whether somebody's passed away in a home, but it can stigmatize a property. And I realize, when people get older, they may pass or through natural causes, God forbid, an infant or a child, or there's something even uh, uh, another situation where there was like a violent crime, it can stigmatize the property. But in Colorado, you have to disclose other contaminants, even mold, radon, asbestos, lead, if it's been remediated, eradicated, whatever the term is out of a property. You also have to disclose material defects that you fixed. But we have a tolerance and we don't require disclosure of meth. But since 2024, our seller disclosures have gotten better, where we are supposed to disclose as a seller certain contaminants, obviously material defects, like if you replace the roof, you have to pull permits, all sorts of other things. But you don't have to disclose methods. So there's a little bit of a gray area um, in the statute itself. But if a seller is knowledgeable of anything previously happening under the term meth drug laboratory, which includes a meth lab, the definition of drug laboratory can be a little bit gray, but it's the statutes are there where it talks about not only where something has been manufactured, but where the drug itself has been stored, the ingredients have been stored, and things like that. So I highly encourage people to, do their due diligence. Of course, reach out to me if you need a little more help. I get people who call me from all over the nation, even because their states are a little different. And we try to do the research together if we can and things like that and just point them in the right direction. So the point is I'm not Colorado specific, but I'm not I'm not a licensed attorney or state certified in any of these things. I'm just somebody who has spent the last several years now becoming educated as much as I can to help advocate for prevention and help try to help people when they get them find themselves jammed up in it themselves. So,
Absolutely. If you were to go back and do anything different around that, what would you do differently?
well, that whole situation, there's a lot of great property managers out there, a lot of who might be small mom and pop operations all the way to corporations, and they're doing things right. But what I realized, and this is really crazy because I had very detailed conversations with the property management company on how they vet a tenant. As being somebody in lending, even in leadership levels, and well over 30 years in banking, I have a lot of love languages, but credit, collateral, capacity, cash flow, all those types of things were things that we had very detailed conversations about. And they assured me that they had vetted this tenant. And then when all this went down and I asked for a copy of the vetted file, they hadn't even pulled a credit report. So I would let people know that they should take a much more proactive role, a partnership relationship and collaboration with people that are managing their properties and be more involved in the decision-making process and make sure that they have permission, if they choose, to review the vetted documents so they can, so they can inspect what they expect, right? And I didn't. I was off. My eyes were wonky, right, at the time. I was out of the area for periods of time, and I had turned the keys over to somebody else who ultimately that saw them based off of their what I refer to as their lack of fiduciary responsibility to me, let that house get torpedoed. Whether they were proactively involved or it was just a fluke, we may never know that, but that would be the advice that I give somebody. And then if they are renting out their home, to test between tenants. It may not be as cost efficient, it may not be as profitable, but your ROI, your return on your investment, I promise that the investment, the juice is worth the squeeze, and the different ways you can at least do some basic ground level testing between tenants.
I love that. That's such important advice. If people wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, Kathy, what's the best way?
I'm on an email, and you may be able to put this information out there with my name and whatnot, but just, Kathi, it's with an I, Kathi, Kathi at methtoxinsalliance.com. We have a website, methtoxinsalliance.com is another way you can contact me through that avenue. And that would be two of the best ways to reach to me.
That's fantastic. I am so grateful for your time today, Kathy. There are so many people that need to hear this. We're learning as buyers and homeowners, we're learning so much about our home environment. And when we go into a resale, even if we buy new, right, we don't actually know what is going on in the background of when our house is being built, right? So that
Right.
awareness, that level of awareness and encouragement to dig deeper is brilliant and it is priceless. And I'm so grateful you spoke to testing, test in between, test before you purchase,
hmm
test, just test.
Just test. And and with all that, there's a lot of knowledge that we put together, and if I can just share with you, we're working on like you said, I've been teaching these CE classes, continuing education classes, to professionals here in the state of Colorado through an accredited program, but we're converting that to a digital course where anybody and everybody will be able to just view it. We've tried to keep the cost as nominal as we can. There's a professional version where professionals who serve real estate related industries, health, and even wealth related industries, civic organizations, associations will be able to benefit from it, and the individual, the buyer, the homeowner, and the landlord and investors. And so that will be coming, that is coming now, and it'll be on the website soon to be able to link to. You're going to be in the magazine, information on the magazine for the fifth issue. It'll be in there, and that'll be on the website as well. And then there's also one less thing for prevention. I wish I would have known that this didn't exist before, but it does now. And at my landing page for Meth Toxins, that's plural, methtoxinsalarm.com, there's a preventative a deterrent. It's a meth alarm. It's a smart alarm. It's amazing technology that's now out there. And I invite people to just reach out and learn more. Because if I would have known that if this would have existed at that time, I would have purchased this alarm. I would have let, you know, potential tenants know that there is an alarm there that can pick up the components and the vapors related to meth usage and or meth manufacturing. And it could have been a deterrent where unfortunately that person may have just gone rented somewhere else, but it would have picked it up early if it still was there. The guy couldn't have tampered with it without it notifying us. It's a smart alarm, so I would have gotten pinged on my phone right away if it was turned off or thrown in a drawer. So there are resources and tools out there now. That's what I've done, is I've taken my lemons and turned them into some learning, as well as true preventative measures that people can take. And I hope people will take notice, and the juice is worth the squeeze. It's a small investment for a huge return on that. Because once you're jammed up in this, it literally can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I think is really important to mention is I haven't found any property insurance policy that covers, it's an exclusion in our property insurance policies, and I haven't found a carrier that offers an endorsement that you could buy separately. So that's a big deal,
Mm.
because even tenant policies are exclude the criminal actions that cause damage. And so at every turn, no matter what I did and how much preventative pieces I put into place, we just found out that I just found out I was writing big checks, really, really big checks.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it is just so unfair. The whole insurance dynamic, we're often finding this with mold too,
Yeah,
that if you have a water intrusion and you're not right on top of it and it produces mold, it's like, sorry, that's on you for neglecting it as a homeowner, and you may
right.
not
And
have seen
you
it.
may not have known it. And,
Mhm.
the insurance industry has been there for me on many areas, including my sight and my health and even other issues and my loved ones as well. But with this particular topic, it's something that needs, I think people need to really realize that there are exclusions to policies that could catch us off guard. And
Yep.
so, uh,
Yeah.
those are my pearls of wisdom, but
Yeah.
we don't have enough time for me to teach the whole
Yeah.
the all every section of the courses, but I encourage people to consider purchasing it, the videos, and watching it in the privacy of their own home
Yeah.
at a pace that you don't have to sit down and watch the whole thing all at once. So
Absolutely.
I'm
That's my
excited and appreciate you having me here today,
Oh
Tammy.
gosh,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much, Kathy. I am really grateful for all of this. and appreciate you and the work that you're doing in the world of real estate and housing and for with homeowners. You're really rippling out there and I'm seeing you more and more.
Yeah, and it's a health situation, and this is wealth related. I would have almost had my property fully paid off at this chapter and juncture in my life, and I know that this is the legacy I intended to leave to my family. So this is truly legacy work. We don't want to pass these unknowns to our loved ones, for them to have to deal with the health, or the financial fallouts that can come when something is discovered as we transition, wealth to our loved ones down the road. And so I am grateful that this happened here and now, and that the lessons that have been learned and the ripple effect for prevention and a positive impact that we've all been experiencing from it. So thank you so much for your contribution into this next magazine, and bringing more of this mold, and the credentials and the extra steps that you have taken as a professional, to serve your clients and your communities better. I love that that exists now for people, and that you can take those steps uh,
Oh,
to serve
yeah.
in your roles as even better and better all the time. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much.